everyone who's joining us. Let's see. Can everyone hear me who's currently joining? For those of you joining us, we're still waiting to see if more people will join us. My name's Brittany. I'm a programs manager with Macaw Recovery Network. Hi, Mom. Gotta love the support of the family. We are pretty much like a family here at Macaw Recovery Network, so it's great to have both our work family and our real family joining us. And yeah, would love to talk more to everyone who's interested in our volunteer program with Macaw Recovery Network, to hear about how you can join our family as well. So great. Seems like we've got more people joining us, and you can hear me, which is amazing. We'll let some more people join us as we prepare to talk about the volunteer program. I'm currently at our captive breeding center in Punta Islita. So if you hear macaws in the background, it is because they are here and they are alive. We have around 50 released scarlet macaws in the area, and some of them have been flying around this morning. So you might hear or potentially see them fly behind us as we're chatting this morning. We also, again, are at our captive breeding center, so there are quite a few macaws hanging out down below that are making a bit of noise. Hopefully that just means that they're happy. So for today, what we're going to be doing, if you're joining us, means you've seen our post, which means that you're interested in learning more about our volunteer program. Whether or not it's you who's wanting to volunteer, or you might have a friend or a family member who's interested in volunteering with us in Costa Rica, we would love to be able to share more information with you, answer any questions you may have, and go through the different positions we have as well. So again, for those of you just joining us, my name is Brittany. I'm a programs manager with Macaw Recovery Network. I've been with the organization since December 2017. And I actually began as a volunteer apprentice. And so this program means a lot to me, because without it, I wouldn't be here working for such an amazing organization, and being able to help protect the macaws of Costa Rica. So this program, again, is close to my heart, and I hope that those of you who are interested in joining us ask questions and maybe even apply to come work with us here. So I currently oversee not only the volunteer program, but also our captive breeding center and our released scarlet macaw program, and just kind of overseeing the site as well. So here in Islita, this is just kind of like my main work is overseeing, again, the captive birds. After I was an apprentice, I became the bird manager and used my experience as an apprentice to be successful in that role. Also used some of my background in working as a bird keeper at a zoo in the States to succeed in that role. And then, of course, none of it would be successful without the volunteers. It's a lot of birds to take care of, and then also a lot of birds to monitor in the wild. So the volunteer program is essential for us to be able to do that kind of work. The work that we do here at our captive breeding center, which again the volunteers are a part of, is the daily management of the captive birds. The word that we use and that you'll hear pretty often in any kind of captive animal capacity is daily husbandry, which that means feeding birds, cleaning up after them, providing enrichment, toys, things for them to engage in, doing behavior observations, general maintenance of the aviaries, and just, again, looking out for the overall well-being of the birds and making sure that their quality of life in captivity is up to the highest standard. And then also, of course, during the breeding season, helping our team to monitor the breeding of the captive birds. So again, as we look at at MRN and the different roles that are available to volunteer in. I'll focus first on the captive breeding center and the roles available there. What I've just started describing is our conservation volunteer that works in the aviaries at our captive breeding center. So again, the general husbandry, the day-to-day taking care of the birds. We do not do anything hands-on with the birds. So these birds are not seen as our pets. They are conservation ambassadors, and they do have a job, for lack of a better word, which is exactly what they would be doing in the wild, which is operating on their environment, going around eating seeds. They even disperse seeds in their aviaries, so they're kind of helping with the ecosystem, maintaining that within the aviaries. And then, of course, the breeding, and so that their offspring may thrive and survive. And every bird, or rather every chick that is hatched on site, it goes into our pre-release program where we are observing it, making sure it has the foundational skills in order to survive out in the wild. So it is, again, very important that our volunteers understand that in working here at our captive breeding center, it is very hands-off. Even talking to the birds is a big no-no because we don't want them to learn human vocalizations such as hello or hola. Many of our captive birds do come from situations where perhaps they were kept as a pet. For that reason, they are no longer releasable into the wild. So all of our birds that are in our captive breeding program are non-releasable. So it's our job, again, to take care of them and provide them with a high quality of life and make sure then that their chicks that they have do have the skills and necessary to survive in the wild. So one of the things we like to do, and our volunteers love to do as well, is go out and forage for food out in the wild that the birds can then learn to eat in captivity, so that when they're released into the wild, they have a good, again, foundational set of skills to survive in the wild. So again, our conservation volunteer focuses mainly on the captive birds. It is a pretty long day. It starts at 5:30 a.m. and it goes until 5 p.m. with a very decent-sized break there midday because it gets very hot. And so we want to make sure our volunteers are resting and that we're not overwhelming them with too much work, but also making sure that they have time to kind of have a little bit of free time, perhaps walk down to the beach when there aren't restrictions due to coronavirus, but that they're having those opportunities to experience the area. This is a fairly isolated environment, just a heads up. So if you do decide to come volunteer at our captive breeding center, there's not too much around us. It's a pretty small town, but there are some restaurants and whatnot in the general area. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself right now and talking about the social life, but I'm going to go back to the different roles and what they entail. The other role that we have at our captive breeding center is our apprenticeship, which lasts for 8 months, and that takes place just during the breeding season. And the purpose of our apprenticeship is to bring conservationists from around the world, people who are young adults or young adults, old adults, whoever is wanting to be interested, whoever is interested in a career in conservation, coming and spending an extended amount of time with us at our captive breeding center. And the work is very similar to the conservation volunteer in terms of the early hours, the work in the aviaries, general husbandry. But what we provide in addition to that are multiple learning opportunities and sharing opportunities for them to learn exactly what it takes to run a captive breeding center, have a glimpse into our wild Macaw program as well, and the tours, learning about outreach, education, potentially even some fundraising, everything that goes into running a nonprofit. And so it's a lot of things just piled into one, but hopefully it's a well-rounded experience that, again, similar to what I had as an apprentice here, you're then able to use those skills and then go forward to the next step of, forwarding your career in conservation. And we've had many apprentices go on to do just that. And so it's a great opportunity. Again, it lasts for 8 months. You do get some hands-on experience in terms of managing the chicks within the nest. Again, we do as little with the birds as possible. Just we want to make sure that they're in good health. And so it is potential, though, for our apprentices, especially to learn more about the veterinary work we do and kind of help take care of any sick birds we may have, and also to help monitor the chicks and their growth and development in the nest. but then as well learning everything that goes into creating not only an egg but a chick, and making sure that that chick then grows into a healthy adult who is able to survive in the wild. And each apprentice is assigned a very specific project. It could be that they're assigned a project on diets, and they're tasked with modifying our diets, again under the supervision of our bird manager. It could be that they are assigned a pre-release observation task, which means that they're getting to know the birds from afar and observing them and understanding what behaviors are favorable and which behaviors are unfavorable. It could be, there's so many projects. Pattern recognition is another big thing. So post-release, we would like to be able to better ID our birds. And so for the scarlet macaws, they've got some very distinct feathers, wing patterns on their feathers on their wings to make a distinct pattern. And so if we're able to catalog those patterns via camera and be able to put it into some kind of pattern recognition software, that would help us in being able to monitor their success post-release. The great green macaws have less defining patterns on their feathers, on their wings that is, but on their face they have these stripes that are small black feathers, and it's considered unique to each individual, kind of like a fingerprint. And so if we get enough pictures of our captive great greens and potentially even our wild great greens, we would be able to better ID them post-release. And so helping us set up things like that, again, that are going towards us always growing and improving as an organization, and also our apprentices growing and improving in their skill sets, is going to help us out quite a bit. Let me have a quick look at another role here at our Captive Breeding Center is our outreach and conservation volunteer. And so that individual is doing a lot of engaging with the public. And so we are always looking for enthusiastic individuals who are interested in communicating with others and talking to others about the work that we do here. One of the main ways that we do that at MRN is via our tours. Currently, due to coronavirus, those tours have been temporarily closed, and we aren't quite sure when they're going to open up. It may not be until sometime further into the rainy season, which we've currently kind of begun the rainy season. But I'm actually sitting here at our tour center right now. It's quite lovely. We've got a hummingbird and butterfly garden. You get to see the scarlet macaws fly by. We do supplemental feeding of the released scarlet macaws, and the outreach and conservation volunteer helps to provide that to the birds. We do daily tours. When our tours are open, we do daily tours in the morning and afternoon. We also do photography tours, and we have a shop here where local artists provide their art to us. And so our outreach and conservation volunteer coordinates with those artists, talks to the people coming here for the tour. You do an educational talk with them, presentation, and then you feed the supplementary food to the birds, and it can be a really dynamic and really fun experience. And the people who come on the tours are obviously interested in the work that we do. I used to help with the tours as well when I was an apprentice, and it's a breath of fresh air, especially if you're working with the birds all day, to be able to come up here and give a tour to people and actually talk to people and share about the work you're doing, because it is exciting work, and being able to share and talk about it makes it even that much more special. And so for me, I know our outreach and conservation volunteers do enjoy being able to share about the work we do. And we've actually received applications for people to volunteer with us because of the tours. And so it's really exciting. And there is potential further development for that position. And everything that I'm describing right now, all of the positions, you can find more information about each position in greater detail on our website. And we can put a link up for that where you can find that here in a bit. It actually might already be in the comments, so check it out. We also do a lot of monitoring of our released scarlet macaws, like I said earlier. And also we do monitoring of the wild great green macaws, but that's in a separate area. So first I'll talk about the field work that we do here in Isleta to monitor our released scarlet macaws. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we've released nearly around 50 scarlet macaws in this area since 2011. And quite a few of them still show up at our feeders here. That's one of our monitoring methods and our release methods, is that we provide supplementary food while the birds are learning to become more independent and find those food sources on their own. But then it allows us to monitor the birds and their health and their well-being. It kind of brings them to this central location where we can check up on them. But when they aren't here, the big question is, where are they and what are they doing? So that's where our field biologists come in, and they help us to determine what's happening in the wild. Our Scarlet Macaw field program only takes place during the breeding season. We currently don't do much monitoring other than here at the site during the non-breeding season. So the breeding season for these guys is roughly January to July. And during that time, we take on 2 volunteer field biologists to come and motorbike through these steep, dusty, dirty hills, check through the forest with machetes, find us some birds, figure out what they're doing. We've been able to identify some new nesting sites over the past a couple of seasons, and we would like to be able to continue to identify more. So the field biologist, again, wakes up pretty early because the birds get pretty active once the sun starts to peek over that ridge over there. And so before the sun is even above that ridge, the birds are already out flying around and screaming. So our field biologists get up with the sun as well, and they're going out and they're looking for these wonderful birds, figuring out where they're spending their time, but more importantly, figuring out where they are nesting, if they are nesting. A lot of times they choose to nest in these things called dead palm trees, and they are very notorious for falling over or flooding or doing something horrible. So our field biologists always have to troubleshoot, find these dead palm trees before the birds do, and make adjustments to them, modify them so that they are safe for when the birds do decide to nest in them. We also have a lot of artificial nest boxes in the area that our team puts up in the non-breeding season and maintains in the non-breeding season. And then the birds tend to explore those, and we haven't had as much success with the birds choosing those nest sites, which we believe are much safer than the dead palm trees. But hopefully this season we see more activity in those artificial nest boxes that our team puts up. There isn't that much intense tree climbing, but those skills are favorable, and they will help you succeed as a field biologist here with us if you're able to do some basic tree climbing and have experience with that. One of the main things that we ask for our Scarlet Macaw field biologists is that they're able to safely drive a motorbike, and for that, of course, having the proper license and experience to do that. Because transportation in the area, the roads are a bit rough, the motorbike is ideal form of transportation. Safely, of course, with a helmet and everything. So again, the field biologists, it's long days in the field. You might have a nice break there midday. You could take that break in the field, or you could come back to our field station here in Isleta to take that break. So that is just a brief glimpse. Again, you can read more about the positions online at the Scarlet Macaw field biologist. Now we can talk about our great green macaw field biologist, which actually doesn't take place here in Isleta because there are no great greens in this area other than our captive breeding center. Great green macaws are not historically native to this dry forest. They're more native to the Caribbean lowland side of Costa Rica. So our Great Green Field program takes place in Sarapiquí, Costa Rica, which is north of San Jose. And our team up there are monitoring year-round as opposed to just the breeding season. They're monitoring both the non-breeding season and the breeding season, the great green macaws, which are a endangered species. So we want to spend more time with them, understanding their behaviors, where they're roosting throughout the year. And so in the non-breeding season, the birds, we don't really know where they're going. So if you choose to be a field biologist with us during the non-breeding season, you will be helping us do some roost counts. Again, waking up early, figuring out where the birds are, where they're going, where they're spending their time, gathering as much information about their behavior as possible, because little has been studied about these birds, and we hope that through having volunteer field biologists join us that we can learn more. And of course, you get the experience as well to join us and hang out and chase these wonderful birds throughout the forests of Costa Rica. Sometimes you are running through cow pastures, just a heads up. It's not all glamorous to find these birds and figure out where they are going. But some other things that we do during the non-breeding season for our Great Green Macaw program is similar to here, where we're doing a lot of nest maintenance. So the Serapequi field team, they're well versed in single rope access climbing, and they're climbing these tall mountain almonds. They might be 30 meters up in the air. So if you're not a fan of heights, maybe the Great Green Macaw field program is not for you. And again, we do for any of these positions, being in a good physical condition is ideal, because you are spending all day outside in the heat, climbing, walking, machete, whichever. So it's not a cakewalk or a walk in the park. So we do ask that you consider that when you're applying with us. But again, we'd love to have anyone with us. But then come the other things in the non-breeding season, again, are nest maintenance, wanting to make sure that we're removing any potential access points for predators to get into the nests, such as tyras. One thing that we do is we put some metal laminate around the base of a tree, kind of like a skirt, to prevent predators from climbing up. It keeps the tree safe. We don't do any harm to the tree. These wonderful tall mountain almond trees, which are an endangered species as well. But we are also able to help protect our Great Green Macaws and the chicks that are in the nest. And then removing old dead vines, that might be another thing that we do. We also have a plant nursery that's being developed in Serapequi, so that could also be a part of the volunteer program, the work that you do up there. But then come breeding season, it's again similar to here, where you're monitoring all known active nests, finding new nests, waking up early. I can't emphasize that enough. I feel like waking up early is a huge part of volunteering with MRN, and long hours in the heat. For any of our positions, it again takes a lot of energy and stamina. But again, during the breeding season for the Great Green Macaw program, going out, finding nests, climbing trees, potentially getting the chicks out of the nest to do some, again, behavior, health diagnosis, making sure that the chicks are healthy and growing, and that they're developing properly. Counting how many eggs are laid, counting out of those eggs, how many hatch, out of those that hatch, how many survive to fledge, and once they do fledge, are they fledging properly? We've seen a few times where chicks fledge before they're actually ready. Maybe their feathers haven't grown in fully. Or one of the bigger threats is that they are in a tall tree in the middle of a field, a pasture with no other trees around them, so that when they leave the nest, there's no close trees to fly to, and so they end up in the pasture, and the team have to help get the chick back up into the tree. And so it's a lot of being on your A game, keeping track of when an egg was laid, when the chick hatched, and making sure that you're at the right place at the right time, so that those chicks have the highest chance of success and surviving in the wild. And usually in our at our Great Green Macaw Field Station, the team is away for the entire day. They take their lunch out in the field, and they don't get back until the sun is down. And that is a very rustic accommodation, so that's another thing to note, is that our accommodations are fairly rustic, and I think we kind of enjoy that. You get to see a lot of critters in your living space, so if you're not a fan of critters, maybe this isn't the best place for you. Geckos, whip scorpions, spiders. Geckos are the big thing. We do, of course, try to keep our pest control under control, so we won't tolerate, or we will do our best to remove mice, rats, and of course snakes, or anything like that might end up close to where you are living. So moving on from that, another position that we have available specifically during the non-breeding season is for a volunteer arborist or a tree climber. And this comes in handy, especially as we're putting the nest boxes up into the trees, doing maintenance on them, and checking out the natural cavities as well to make sure that they are safe for the birds. So if you have experience climbing, professionally is preferable, and you're confident in doing that, and teaching someone here on site to help guide you up the tree and be the person on the ground while you're up in the tree. That'd be great. About a month or so to help us do nest box maintenance. that would go a long way. So I realize I've kind of breezed through, oh, we have one more position that I haven't spoken about, and that's our volunteer veterinarian. And so we do have a veterinarian, but she unfortunately isn't on site with us 24/7. She is located 3 hours away from us. Our team is pretty capable of handling a lot of bird emergencies and giving medications and everything like that. But at times it is nice to have people join us who have more knowledge than we do to handle not only those emergencies, but also the day-to-day care of the birds. Our team is constantly screening the bird fecal samples for parasites and other internal parasites or even external parasites. We're wanting to do more in terms of blood work and collecting blood samples and understanding more about the genetics of our birds. There are a lot of questions that we would like to have answered. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we might be modifying the diets. And so nutrition is a huge part of what we do here, making sure that our birds are getting, again, the highest quality care. And so one of the ways that we can do high quality care is if we have a volunteer veterinarian with us for even just a month or so to help guide us and make sure that, to help find any kind of gaps in our practices, provide us with additional knowledge, skills, and just to be kind of that nice buffer for us, again, because our knowledge can only take us so far. And so we are always appreciative when a volunteer veterinarian is able to come and spend some time with us to help guide us through these tricky things that happen in the middle of Costa Rica when you don't expect them to happen. So again, that was a brief run through, or I hope it was brief. I hope I didn't go on for too long on all the positions, which you can read more about if you go to the link that's been posted in our comments. So at this time, I mean, we do have, again, another link on our webpage for frequently asked questions. And so there's quite a few there that you can always read through to see if there's anything in particular about like the work schedule, what language you need to know. So most of our team speaks English. Some of our team do only speak Spanish, but we like to think that we have a good Spanglish going on site where we have a good mixture. And so communication-wise, if you're coming to volunteer with us, if you have some knowledge of Spanish or English, that is preferable. Even if you can't speak either, you know, maybe we can just speak using our hands and gestures and everything. But as far as understanding the work and being able to do your work well, being able to speak either English or Spanish is going to help you. Travel to site, we ask that, of course, every volunteer makes their own way to site. It's your financial responsibility to purchase your flight. To get travel insurance, we do require that all of our volunteers have some kind of coverage. In case there is a medical emergency while you're here, we cannot cover the cost of that for you. So you're required to provide proof of travel insurance before you come to us. There are 2 airports in Costa Rica. There's Liberia and San Jose. And so we're able to help you logistically get from either Liberia or San Jose via bus. And then we'll get you to the closest bus station that's to either one of our sites, and then a member of staff will be there at the bus station to pick you up and bring you to the rest of the way to site, where you will be greeted with clean sheets and a bed, a mosquito net. Their volunteer accommodations, again, they're rustic, but you will have 4 walls around you. You will have a shower. You will have a kitchen area. You are not going to have hot water, so if that's another deal breaker for you, including the bugs, then I apologize. We don't have hot water. And even in my home, no hot water. And yeah, at our Isleta site, there is a washing machine, but at our Sarapiquí field station, you're doing your laundry by hand, which can be exciting. And no dryer, so you're putting all your clothes up on the line to dry. As far as being able to communicate with your family members back home when you're with us, in Isleta we do have internet and cell service. I'll be honest, it's not always reliable. Just yesterday we were without internet for a while, so it's not 24/7. And then in Sarapiquí, unfortunately, we do not have internet and very, very little cell service in Sarapiquí. But the team do make weekly trips to the nearest town to do shopping, and there are some Wi-Fi spots available there. And that kind of segues into uh, food and what you'll be eating when you're with us. Um, so our volunteers are responsible for purchasing their own food, and we do a weekly shopping trip to the nearest town to do that. We normally recommend you budget around $40 to spend per US dollars to spend per week on food. And also consider that you might be also wanting to buy some other things or spend money on excursions, surfing, dolphin trips, and things like that. But we do weekly shopping trips. You're responsible for making sure you have your own ingredients for breakfast and lunch, and then we do communal dinners, but we still purchase those communal ingredients with our own money. And if you have a special diet, most of our meals are always vegetarian. But we've had people come who, of course, buy their own meat if they would like some meat in their food. And then we're able to accommodate vegan diets as well. Keto is a little bit more difficult. A lot of our meals have rice and pasta in them. So if you're keto, that might be a little bit more difficult to manage in terms of communal meals. So you can always opt to do your own meals if you are keto. So again, there's a lot that we could go through right now. But if you go to that link to the frequently asked questions link, you'll find quite a bit of information. So I think at this time, before I just start rambling and I lose your attention completely, if you have questions to ask about volunteering with us, we'll take those questions at this time. So we do have one question from Candace Friedman. Do you have any sponsorship for people to come? So currently we do not have the ability to sponsor anyone to come volunteer with us, especially during coronavirus. Everyone's taken a bit of a financial hit, and so we aren't able to financially sponsor anyone to come visit with us. When you look at the volunteer positions available, you'll see that they are, we do charge a fee to come volunteer with us, and that is for your accommodations. But again, at this time, we're always willing to have a one-on-one conversation with you about what's possible and what isn't possible, especially like length of time and pay. So I'm willing to have a conversation with you about that. But if your employer back home can't sponsor you, unfortunately, we again aren't able to do any sponsoring at this time. All right. I'm not sure we have many other questions. Let's see. The weather, in case you're curious about the weather. So there are two very distinct seasons in Costa Rica. We have the dry season and the rainy season. And the dry season usually takes place from December to, let's say, the end of May, June. And then there's a little bit of showers there at the start and the end. And that is the breeding season for the birds. And then we go into the rainy season, which the height of the rain is usually around September. And that's when it's pretty relentless and you start to wonder if blue skies ever do exist. And so it's very extreme. It goes from no rain at all in the dry season to some showers to nonstop rain. The temperature during the dry season, it can be very hot. In Celsius, I can never really remember. It could be around 30 degrees Celsius in the day. I think we have seen it get close to 40 a couple of times. So prepare for heat, prepare for rain, prepare for bugs, early mornings. But also be prepared to make some pretty cool friendships and relationships. So that's another thing that our volunteers seem to really enjoy, the communal life. Again, if I haven't mentioned it yet, we have shared living space for our volunteers. But you each get your own bed. Don't worry, you're not having to share your bed. So it's, it can feel like you're surrounded by people 24/7, but there are opportunities to kind of escape. But then it's great to see the relationships come out of volunteering. I still keep in touch with quite a few people who have volunteered with us or who I volunteered with while I was here. And it's amazing the strong relationships, the bonds that we build here together. And so, if nothing else, you'll, I think, come out of this with some great friendships. But let's see. As far as qualifications, you must be 18 or older to volunteer with us. Other than that, and then of course, if you sign up to be like our veterinarian or an arborist, tree climber, we ask that you do have those skills and that experience before you apply for those positions. But as far as being to do the general husbandry and the aviaries, as long as you're able to carry some heavy weight, because we do carry these big trays with all the food down to the aviaries. You're able to walk up and down hills and bend over and pick things up. Those are the general requirements to work in our aviaries. Apprentices as well, similar skills, and then just the willingness to learn and go on above and beyond. And also the willingness to stay here for 8 months is a huge thing. Our field biologists, I already kind of mentioned that for the Scarlet Macaw program, we ask that you can drive a motorbike. For the Great Green Macaw program, some manual 4x4 experience is preferred. But again, the main thing is that you are willing to give it your all, get up early, go for long days, and you're physically fit, able to carry large packs with climbing gear on your back. Similar for the Scarlet Macaw program here. And then for the outreach and conservation volunteer who will be helping with the tours here, of course, we would love it if you are familiar with engaging with the public in some way, you're comfortable doing public presentations, you're organized, because you also will be organizing the tours, taking the reservations and booking. And you can count money. That's a huge thing because you will be doing some money handling. You're trustworthy and you're excited to share about your work and wear a smile on your face when you're around people. Our tree climber, again, we ask that you actually do have experience climbing trees, and your knowledge of ropes and is high. Again, professional climbing is ideal. And then our volunteer veterinarian, again, that you're interested in coming and helping us improve our practices here. And then also if you're interested in doing some of the general husbandry and the aviaries, that would be great as well. So again, you can you can read more about the positions on our website. And let's see, do we have another?
Yeah, how many applications do you receive for the apprenticeship program?
All right, so we have a question about how many applications we receive for the apprentice program. Great question. So we do receive quite a few applications, and of those applications, we take 3 Great Green Macaw apprentices. So that is something I didn't quite cover, is that we do have 2 different roles within our apprenticeship. And that is because the Great Green Macaw breeding season is different from the Scarlet Macaw breeding season. So the Great Green Macaw breeding season will start in December. And so we take 3 Great Green Macaw apprentices at the start of December, and that goes for 8 months. And then we take 2 Scarlet Macaw apprentices beginning in January, and that also goes for 8 months. So we have 5 positions available total for apprentices. And again, we could not do what we do without them. And I think one of the wonderful things about our apprentice program is that you're able to come and not only learn from us, but also one thing that we encourage is that our apprentices share their knowledge and their information with us, which is one of the great things about the individualized projects you'll be working on. But then also, the majority of our apprentices have come from some background already where they've done either kind of a field work position or general conservation project, and they're able to come and share their insight. And it's not just the apprentices, I say the apprentices, but it's all of our volunteers. Everyone's always coming and providing us with more information, which is great. We're a huge fan of not trying to pretend like we know everything, because we know that there's still so much growth that we can do, and you coming and joining us, we understand and value the information and the experiences you've had, and we fully want to learn from those experiences and have you share those exciting things with us as well. So again, we want to open up the table for complete sharing of knowledge and experiences, and hope that you're able to join us in that. Let's see. If there aren't any more questions, we'll probably just kind of start to round it out. And when your applications come in, I will be the one receiving those. And so you'll be in touch with me at the start. And usually what we do, the process is I'll receive your application. So if you can go to, again, if we get the application from our website, I'll receive that. I'll put your information, I'll save your information, and then I'll send you an email with more information about the specific position that you've applied for. And then we will likely do some emailing back and forth, potentially even a video call, so that we can talk a bit more and I can answer more questions that you may have. Put your mind at ease, especially if it'll be your first time volunteering in a foreign country, help you make your travel arrangements to come visit with us. And then, of course, I'll put you in touch with your direct manager. So if you're working with our Syrupkey field biologist, I will make sure that you are put in touch with Claire, who will be overseeing that. If you're working with our Scarlet Macaw field biologist, I'll put you in touch with Carrie. So I'll make sure that you are in touch with people prior to your arrival to put your mind at ease about any nerves you may have in regards to traveling with us. Great. Well, again, if there aren't any more questions, or if I haven't missed anything, I look forward to receiving some applications, I hope, and seeing you in Costa Rica at some point. So I hope you guys take care, stay healthy, and we look forward to hopefully having you with us. All right. Well, bye everyone.